Welcome to this week's episode of Zero to a Million, brought to you by Unstack. I'm your host, Zach Rigo, and today I'm joined by Chris Mead, co-founder and CMO of CrossNet, the world's first four-square volleyball game. Chris, thank you so much for joining me
today.
What up,
man? Thanks for having me.
Yeah, appreciate you coming on. I guess before we jump into CrossNet and kind of what you're building today, let's go through a bit of your background. I think it's a unique journey to founding a cross between foursquare and volleyball.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, so I'm Chris. We invented a four-way volleyball net. It just seemed like common sense, right? It seems like something that should have been there since we were kids and way before when we were not born. And I was working a shitty sales job and grinded along making cold calls, and I was pretty miserable. I was 24. I was making some good money, had a $100K in student loan debt, and I was like, dude, this cannot be the rest of my life, right? Like, going out, living for the weekend, Sunday comes and you're literally miserable and you can't even enjoy Sunday because you got to wake up on Monday and you got to go back to cold calling people. It sucked. So I always knew, like, yo, if we could find an idea that had traction, I'm going for that thing. Like, let's do it. And then one night we wrote down four-way volleyball, just kind of like a little get-together brainstorming session with my brother and our childhood friend back up in Connecticut where we're from. And that was the night that changed our life. Like, it just changed our lives completely. And we wrote down four-way volleyball. It was about 4 a.m. We went to bed and we woke up the next day and went straight to Walmart. We got 2 badminton nets. We bought them. Texted all our friends. We're like, yo, come over. Like, we're inventing something. Like, just come. We're home for, like, whatever it was, like spring break or summer break. Come home. And we rigged up two nets, like, on the side of my mom's garage and garden. Cut out the middle, and then we just made rules up on the spot, and it was so much fun, dude. We played for hours, and like everyone talks about proof of concept and all this garbage. Like, that was our proof of concept. Like, we just played, we had fun, right. And we're like, all right, let's get to work.
Okay, so what's the next step, right? You come up with the idea, you guys slept on it for a few hours at least, you played it, you built the rules for it. That was your first prototype. Was that good enough to go and start to think about how do we manufacture this thing, or was there multiple iterations?
That was all we needed. Like, I mean, I think we took so there's like little strings on the side to like keep the net like taut. I think we may have put in like camping strings or camping stakes to make it a little bit more sturdy. And then from there, it was just making the blueprint. So one of our founders, I was talking about, like, all 3 of the founders have very different skill sets, which has led us to become so powerful and so big pretty quickly. His was engineering. So he jumped on AutoCAD literally that night. Like, he had this big old clunky nerdy computer, and he whipped out the software and he built a prototype that night. And then it was off to the races. We'd go on AliExpress and Alibaba, find a volleyball manufacturer, and then essentially you're careful, right? Because you have this amazing $1 million idea and you don't want to get ripped off, but you also need somebody's help because you can't manufacture these things in your mom's basement, right? So it's a fine line. So we reached out to a bunch of people. We found one that said, hey, I'm up for the task and I'm up for working within your budget, which was like 15 grand, which is nothing for most of these manufacturers. And she took a chance on us, and thank God she did. We became her biggest client in her entire factory now. Yeah.
That's great. That's great. How did you protect the idea at that point? Was there some sort of non-disclosure? Did you guys try to do any patent stuff, which obviously is expensive as well? Like, where was that fine line? You mentioned trying to protect the idea.
We were working on the patent process behind the scenes, but we also knew we needed to – we were all miserable at our jobs and we wanted to get this off the ground. So we had the manufacturer sign an NDA, but again, an NDA is only as good as you could protect an NDA. Thankfully, nobody really ripped us off or did anything with it. Plus, there's no concept, right? Like, there's nobody building the brand or building the sport. So it's cool to have a four-way net, but if you don't have somebody driving the sport and like propelling it forward, then you're just left with a four-way net in your warehouse, you know?
Right. So let's kind of get into that, right? Like, you're mashing up 2 ideas. I think everyone's familiar with foursquare. Everyone's familiar with volleyball. You gotta build an education platform to tell people, 1, we've created a sport, but 2, here are the rules. Here's how you do it. How have you go? How did you go to market early when maybe money was still tight and you're just trying to figure things out and educate a market on something that's
Yeah,
brand new?
tough, especially tough when you're living in Connecticut and it's October and it's cold out, right? As you know from New
Yeah,
England, like nobody in their right mind is playing volleyball in New England in October. You have to be a moron. So
right.
we moved, we dropped everything, we quit our jobs, we left our girl, like our girlfriends either got broken up with or we broke up with, and we moved to Miami and we lived in a 1 bedroom apartment. And in the beginning, it was, oh, let's build out the Shopify store, let's move, let's do conversion rate optimization. And eventually, it's like, that all means shit if you don't have website visitors in the first place. So
Yeah.
we would just go to the beach every single day. And we'd set up CrossNet. Like right now, 11 o'clock, I'd be there just grinding on the beach, like getting a tan in, enjoying the Miami weather, but also we'd be demoing the game. And people would be coming up from all
Right.
different parts. And Miami's obviously a hub for tourism. So we'd have 50 people playing the game by the end of the day. I couldn't even get to play my own game, which was frustrating actually at times because I loved it so much back then. Still do, but it was like still so novel to us. And
Yeah.
eventually, as the sun goes down, we'd sell the net to whoever was the most into it that day. We'd give them, oh, it's 150 online. Take it home for $100 today, and that would be like our either some of the money would go back into the business, others for like pay for dinner that night.
Couple
Yeah,
of beers.
and then what happened, which was interesting, was over time, and we weren't really doing much on paid at this point because we just didn't have a lot of money. We start seeing sales from other cities, and we're like,
Hmm.
where the hell are these people finding CrossNet from? And then we're like, oh wait, those are the people we played at the beach with, and now they're back home
Right.
playing. So these girls from New Jersey, like, they bought it, and then they start playing every single weekend, and every single weekend we start getting sales from their hometown in New Jersey, and I'm like, what? This is crazy. So then,
Yeah.
as time went on, that kept happening, and then it would be like you'd start getting people playing in smaller cities of New Jersey, and then more sales keep coming in, and now you get 100,000 nets out in the world, and so every summer it's just like like webs of traffic coming in from people that are out playing.
Right.
So it's all about the messaging, making sure they're playing correctly because nobody wants to buy a product if they're playing terribly and looks awful. Uh, it's all about getting them outside and actually playing and getting them to be like a part of our community. All really, really important stuff.
Yeah. So I think something that you mentioned that's like I think undervalued is impressions can be on a website, an ad, and in
Yep.
person, right? And y'all were like, screw it, like let's go get people to see the game in a place where beach volleyball is already huge, but that's a good strategy, I think, and you're getting people's hands on it. And I'm building a side business where the social scale is huge when I get multiple people playing a game because it's 2 or 3 people are booking it after. So I think you've got something there that I think a lot of e-commerce businesses aren't thinking about. And when you got people to your site from these various places, the Shopify store was up. They were able to buy online, ship nationwide, international at this point, or just
Yeah, we were
United
taking
States.
international sales for sure, but I mean, nobody was really finding it. And if we did, we'd
Right.
probably charge them $75 for shipping, and it ended up costing us $150, so we just lose money anyway. So yeah,
Yeah.
lessons
Yeah.
learned
Okay.
there.
So you start to see that traction, getting a little money in the bank. What were kind of the next marketing avenues y'all started to
Yeah,
find
so
traction
we
with?
honestly, I'd go there, I'd take my cell phone, and I'd just shoot all day long. Like, I just going around doing this, and then I'd start uploading those 15, 30-second shots into the ad manager at night. And I wasn't doing it, actually. Our biggest, like, hack was we had a friend from high school that we used to play basketball with. He was in college now, and he was looking for an internship. So I was like, yo, Ben, you want to do a free internship? You don't have to go to college. Like, you don't have to go to one boring college class, and you can just work for us for free. He's like, deal. And so he became our first, like, intern and was our paid media expert. So he'd run I upload all the ads to, like, the Dropbox. He'd upload them. And, yeah, eventually we just started collecting ads. We found what worked and what didn't. And what we quickly found was that our target demo was me, 28, 20, 25, whatever it was back then. I thought it was going to be people like myself, but moms and dads were the ones that had the $150. I didn't learn that until we started going to the ad manager to see what would work. Videos of me, not too good. Videos of a 10-year-old playing in their backyard at a barbecue, killed. So those were the kind of the lessons we learned, and then obviously I'm doubling down. I'm never taking another video of myself. I'm going to take all the videos of the barbecue. and keep going with that.
Yeah. And was this mostly on Facebook at the
Yeah.
time, or Instagram as
Yeah,
well?
it was Facebook, a little bit of Instagram as well, but Facebook has always been the bread and butter, and we'll continue. Hopefully, we'll figure out the iOS stuff that's going on right now.
Yeah. Yeah. We've talked a lot about that. It seems to sound like just continuing to pay and struggle through it and let the algorithm start to find new data points that matter and optimize from there. But that will continue to get better. It has to. As you think about that transition in the core customer, did messaging change at all? Because I think my initial gut was like, this is a game for me, early 30s, like to be outside, have beers with my friends, we can play. As you transition to that, the creative changes, but also did the messaging start to change? Did you start to refine the site in any way?
Yeah, it's a good question. I think one of our early pain points was that we had different people on different platforms. So like my brother would be on Twitter, I'd be on Facebook, or I'd be on LinkedIn, and somebody else would be on this. So it was just not a comprehensive voice. That's kind of like a buzzy word, but we really weren't talking the same way because we were all talk different. And if you have different people running the account with no brand guidelines or no like, this is what CrossNet stands for, definitely makes messaging. So we're much better about that these days. But one of our first like initial things that we did was, as we started to find that there's different demographics that are interested in our product, we'd create different landers in different parts of our website. So rather than trying to do a one-size-fits-all model, we would drive people to specific pages. Parents would go to this page, volleyball people would go to this page. And now that's like we're launching a new website in a few days, which I'm excited about. And that's going to be even more well-defined. But that's been really, really important for us because you don't want to just drive people all to the one website with the same language. You want to build it custom for them.
Yeah. Okay. No, that's a great point. And we are obviously at Unstack a huge proponent of that and super tailored, personalized as much as you possibly can. And, whether it's through email or even through an Instagram or Facebook ad, you can continue to refine based on your targeting and make that experience unique when they hit your site. One other thing I've seen, you guys work really hard on is social proof, press and really being out there. Obviously featured on your homepage, some logos of some big publications, ones that I follow where I found you through and others. What was the early strategy for garnering press, and then how has that evolved over the last few years?
I think for us it's kind of like that back against the wall mentality. We're just some farm town kids from Connecticut. We don't know a damn single person like in e-commerce or like entrepreneurship. Like, it was how can we legitimize this business that it's not Chris and Greg me slinging volleyball nets from my mom's basement, but that's really what it is. We didn't have no VC money. We didn't know anybody. We didn't have somebody hand us $1 million and say, hey, we'll get you on Forbes tomorrow. It was, we're grinding this out. We've pulled out our 401ks. We've liquidated everything. If we blow this cash, we're back to our miserable jobs and back to where we started. So that's really how it was. And that's how it was so important to be so smart with our money. So we never paid for press a day in our life. It was reaching out and being genuine. The best thing has been LinkedIn for us. Like, I built up a very, very nice LinkedIn following. I love to read. I don't know about you, but I genuinely enjoy reading like good entrepreneur pieces. So I'd read stuff from either people that are actually now buddies of mine, like Truff or Tenzo T, or like some good, really up and coming like DTC brands. And I'd just reach out to the writer and I'd say, yo, dope piece, like really, really good. Like, if you're looking for something new to write about, CrossNet would be a great fit, I think. Here's why, because of XYZ reasons. If not, no harm. Great work. Keep up the great work. I look forward to reading more of your stuff. You'd be so damn surprised how many people wrote back being like, yo, CrossNet actually looks sick. Want to jump on a call. And that's exactly how I got Forbes. And then Forbes did a featured piece on us. And then they did another one, and then we got Forbes 30 under 30. So it was like, yeah, just being genuine and not like snake oil salesman,
Yeah. Yeah. And that's what I think a lot of PR firms that are doing a more spray and pray approach, like there's nothing customized there. Like you were actually consuming the content before even asking. And I think the positioning there is probably much simpler for you to start to write the story for them, which is key and something that, I've had to learn throughout various startups, either having money and spending it on a PR firm or having no money and writing the messages myself. The results tend to be, better when you're taking that one-to-one, want to be super personalized experience. And how is that scaled? So I saw a LinkedIn post from you the other day. I followed you on LinkedIn. That's how we connected. We'll talk about that in a second, but you got some big features coming. I'll let you talk about those. How have you made that approach scalable for you guys? Because you can't be sitting down writing messages all the time.
No, I can't. I wish I could, dude, because they're so effective. It's just so much other shit to do, right? But we eventually started testing PR agencies, and they sucked, bro. There's nothing worse than like starting with a PR agency, paying them a couple grand a month, and they're like, yeah, it's going to take like 4 months to ramp up. And you're like, 4 months? I could go spend 2 hours right now and I could probably get an article on LinkedIn. So like, what do you mean 4 months? So we went through probably like maybe 3 or 4 like really crappy PR agencies. And then I went to Twitter and I was just kind of just sounding off about how PR agencies suck. And this one guy, Tyler Stickmeyer, he just reached out to me and he was from San Diego. He's like, yo, let's go grab a beer. You just moved to San Diego. This was a few months back when I was living there for a little bit. He's like, let's talk. I really think I could help you. And he runs this company called Fidelis or Fidelis. Yeah, Fidelis. That's what's the name of it. And we've been working with them for 6 months. And he's done everything he's asked for. And when things are slow, he'll cut the rates and he'll just be a good human. Hey, we didn't get the responses we thought. Let's discount your invoice by 75% because we didn't carry our weight. Wow. Like, that's a true partnership. And then all of a sudden, yo, Chris, we got Ellen, Price is Right, and The View. Thanks for believing me. Yeah, that's thanks, bro.
That'll work. Yeah. Did he up his rate? Did he up his rate?
He did up his rate. But it's just
you probably would have been okay with it. I mean, those are you're paying for eyeballs, and at this rate, that's a big win right there. One of those is a big win.
Exactly. Yeah. So it's finding genuine partners like that, people that you want to you could pick up the phone with and just talk through other things outside of PR. Like, we have really good relationships, and I was really lucky to find this guy. And obviously had to go through a lot of crappy agencies to get there. Same thing with Facebook. I've been with bad Facebook agencies. I've been with a lot of bad people, honestly, because the mentality as an entrepreneur is like, I could hire for this in-house for pretty much the same cost that your agency's charging me. I know I'm going to get 40 hours from my guys. How many hours am I actually getting from your guys? So,
yeah. It's always challenging. Where else, and this, I think this is interesting for e-commerce, is they struggle to find agencies. They sometimes start with this kind of one-stop shop, and then they find, oh, wow, that's not it. Because to your point, there's a few people behind the scenes, but you're not getting any of their time for any of the independent strategies, email, Facebook, Instagram, Google, your list goes on and on. Are you working with multiple agencies that have kind of subject matter expertise in a specific network, or obviously PR or different strategies?
Yeah, so right now we're working with a Amazon agency for PPC specifically. We're working with one freelancer to handle our Google ads instead of having them in-house. We're working with an agency called Structured that does our Facebook ads and also does our email. But there's a whole different email team and a whole different Facebook team. So it's not one person trying to do everything. And then we got our PR guy. So that's that. And then we work with a thing called ManyPixels. Not really an agency. It's just a retainer model that is a graphic design agency pretty much. $500 a month, and I get unlimited pieces of content, and it's like 7 out of 10 scale. It's not like the most polished work, but it's passable and doable when you need something in 12 hours, and you're like, this is way better than I could ever do it. So,
it takes me 12 hours to make something, and when I'm done, I usually hit delete. I don't want to look at this anymore. Yeah, so ManyPixels has been great. Like, I don't plug them enough because they don't pay me. But they're awesome. Like, you need something really quickly. They're great. And for me, like, obviously I want everything to be 10 out of 10 for CrossNet, but the reality of things, we do too much shit too quickly. It's never going to be 10 out of 10. Yeah. Yeah, it's better to move fast and iterate than it is to be... Design I love. I like to think I have an okay design. I certainly can't design myself. But you get too hung up on those details. It's sometimes crippling to the other pieces of the puzzle that are
especially when you have no clue if it's going to pop off, right? You spend 10 days working on a project and get 6 likes, and you're like, oh, that was a waste of time.
Well, that's the thing, and then you probably noticed this early, right? Like, some of your best videos were probably you holding an Instagram, your phone, right, live on Instagram, or creating a reel in real time. Like, that is not, that's not produced in any way. The lighting's not great. You're walking around. It's, but like those things get tens of thousands of impressions. You're like,
Mm-hmm.
okay, that worked. You mentioned LinkedIn and building your personal brand and network, and using that to leverage kind of those initial, PR. Why? Why? A lot of e-commerce founders are not active on LinkedIn. I know a few. You happen to be
Yeah.
one of them. But would love to think about, like, what was your thought process there? Is that from the B2B days when you were cold calling and you
Yeah,
had
that
to
was
do it?
dude. Like, LinkedIn was always everything because I was always so miserable with my job. I always like knew I was gonna move on to the next job in a year or 8 months. As shitty as that sounds, it's the reality. Like, I'm gonna go get another job and I'll get a 5K pay raise because you could
Yeah.
beg your boss for a 3 grand raise, or I could go jump ship and go to a new company and make 5 grand or 10 grand more. So that was always the mindset. And how do you do that? You made your LinkedIn as sexy as possible, and you had as many recommendations and endorsements and all that stuff, and you had a nice headshot and all that good stuff. So from there, it was like, all right, I'm now in this world of selling a volleyball net, and I want my product to be in every retail store in the world, right? Because that's just common sense. I've spent so many times in Target and Dick's Sporting Goods. Why would I not want my product on the shelf? So best way I could do that, I don't know anybody in the world. Let's just add everybody on LinkedIn and let's just start posting. And let's not connect with them and send them a message 4 seconds later because everybody can see through that. Let's just post good content that's relatable. And I like to think I'm pretty relatable, right? Like, grew up on welfare checks. Dad passed away when I was 19 years old. Never got anything handed to me, and we just had a good idea. We sacrificed all our cash. We put it into a bank account, and we said, yo, buy as many nets as possible, move to Miami, live on a couch, and try to sell this shit out of our backyard. Like, and we did it. And we just kept grinding, and we didn't pull out any money. I didn't buy no Lamborghini. Didn't have a car. Like, we literally had a doomsday board that said how much money we had in our account left. And every day we'd subtract money until we hit zero. So it's like, it's relatable stuff to 99% of the world. And I don't sugarcoat it, and I like to keep it honest. So people started relating to that. People started liking it. People started commenting it. And eventually the post would go from 4 likes to 4,000 likes. And I'm like, holy shit, like, this is getting pretty big. And eventually the buyer started liking it. And as soon as that buyer liked it, yo, saw you like that post. How much would you like if you started selling CrossNet? And that's how we started getting some of our retail accounts. And eventually, it doesn't always work. I messaged the buyer at Dick's like 37 times on LinkedIn. Not in a row, but over like 2 years. Never wrote back to me. But one day on our chat box, we got a message. Hi, this is the buyer from Dick's. I have a PO ready for you. Please answer. It's like, yo, this is crazy. And it was,
You've been ignoring me for 5 years.
And it was like a $200,000 order. And I was like, yeah, that's dope.
Nice. That's great. Yeah, cost per message isn't bad there when you look at it that way.
Exactly.
And then I imagine now, right, you've got the network, you post that you're going to be on Ellen, there's no outreach to the buyers. The buyers see that post and they're like, hey, we need to up our order or PO this month. Like, we got to prepare. We don't want to be out of stock. So, I mean, that's an amazing strategy. I think underutilized for sure. Like I said, I see very few e-commerce founders that are super active. Obviously, I reached out to you on LinkedIn, messaged you, you replied right back. We got you on here, so I appreciate you coming on. What are you most excited about coming down the line with CrossNet? Not only from a product and business perspective, but I think also from a marketing perspective. Where are you all starting to really invest in adding some scale to the business?
I think it's the retail support. Like you just said, like the buyers should know about the view and all this stuff. They don't. There's just so much stuff going on. Like the building out the communication system with the buyer, working hand in hand. I spend so much damn money on social and paid and building up that part of the team, building up a marketing team for retail where a good majority of our money's coming in. That needs to be the next thing that like clicks on in my mind and like with CrossNet. So building out that retail side where we're doing in-store signage, we're building out posters and demand, all that like really good stuff where, I mean, if 60% of our money's coming from wholesale and we're spending 90% of our time on D2C marketing, that shit doesn't really add up. So moving away to that and starting to work more in collaboration with the buyers and their teams, I'm really, really pumped for. We've kind of just hired senior management where we've become a more, I don't want to say corporate company, but kind of doing things more the right way than just going for it. So now we're going to be able to build those relationships. And then November 15th, we drop a Kickstarter. So CrossNet for Soccer. People have been asking
Love
for it for years and years, and finally get to deliver on it. So, the world's first 4-way soccer game. Yeah,
I
I'm
love
pumped.
that. Did we use the same nerdy computer with the CAD design to
Yeah,
start?
exactly.
Perfect. That's the process. Don't
Nope.
break it. I love it.
Exactly.
Chris, thank you so much for joining me today. Everyone can connect with Chris on LinkedIn. I think it's the first time I've said that wrapping up one of these calls, but please do. His content's great. I've engaged with it a bunch. And he's got, I think even the better part is go through the comments, because you're going to find some experts in there that are going back and forth on apps, tools, marketing strategies. And these are our e-commerce experts that I've connected with and spoken with. So I appreciate you putting that content out there, Chris, and everyone check out CrossNet. Really cool product. I'm really excited about it.
Thanks so much, man. I appreciate you having me on.